Hello, beautiful sister, and welcome back to the podcast. I want you to think about something for a second. The last time that you were on the edge of a real breakthrough in your business, and I mean like a breakthrough to that next big level. Maybe it was that launch that was going to take you to that next revenue threshold, or maybe that client, that big client that was about to say yes, or the program that you were about to release. What happened? Did something fall apart at the last minute? Did you get sick, or did you get a puffy eye or a nasty cough? Did your most reliable team member suddenly quit? Did you lose all your motivation right before the finish line? Dear sister, I want you to know that this is not random. It is a pattern, and it's happened to me so many times. And today we're going to talk about it so you understand what's happening and what to do about it. Now, before we do, here's what I want you to know. Every single woman who attempts to scale her business hits a version of this. Right before a quantum leap, something happens. Maybe there's a key launch that falls flat, or a deal collapses, or like I mentioned, a team member leaves. You get the flu the week of the live event, or you procrastinate on that one task that would change everything. And in the moment, I've experienced that it looks like a simple circumstance, like, oh, the team member left, or, oh, there was a technology breakdown right when I'm doing the live offer, right? But it's not a circumstance. It is, like I said, a pattern. And I have watched it play out for 25 years as a business coach across tens of thousands of women. And it's not woo-woo. It is actually predictable. And it happens every time you go for something more. Why? It is identity-based. Here's what I mean. The more the breakthrough wants to come, the louder the resistance will show up. The more things get in the way, especially when the breakthrough is just within reach. So let's talk about why. First, I want you to understand this. Your nervous system is not optimized for success. Okay, I'm just going to say that one more time. And if you are in a place where you can write it down, please do. Your nervous system is not optimized for success. Instead, it's optimized to feel safe. Okay, familiar feels safe. Even when familiar is exhausting, or you're overwhelmed, or it's not what you want. Unfamiliar feels like a threat to your nervous system. Even when unfamiliar is the thing that you want, the revenue that you dream of, the ease, the beauty, the delicious life, right? Even if it's the thing that you are working towards, unfamiliar feels like a threat to your nervous system. And so when the next revenue level is genuinely close, your system reads it as a threat to the status quo. And it will then create whatever it needs to create to stop it, whether it's illness or distraction or conflict or procrastination or just something happens. It's all happening to keep you in the version of you that it already knows how to run, right? It's familiarity. And this is why so many women stay at the same level for years before they address this, even if they have every strategy, every team member that could get them there, every tool they need. So if this has happened to you, I just want you to know that strategy is not the problem. Capacity is. Okay? Your nervous system will create whatever it needs to keep you in the version of you that it already knows. Now, I want to get really specific because self-sabotage doesn't always look like self-sabotage. It looks like life getting in the way. And over all these years, I've put them into 5 different buckets, 5 faces of resistance that I see most often. The first one is the sudden crisis. So right before the breakthrough, something dramatic demands all of your attention. Maybe it's a team conflict. Maybe it's your biggest client pulling out. Maybe it's a family emergency. The school nurse calls you. Maybe it's a tech disaster, right? You're in the middle of that big launch and all of a sudden the internet isn't working, or upstairs they decided to renovate the entire place and they're drilling. This has happened to me. Suddenly the launch can't happen because you have to deal with this first. Okay. So that's the first one. The second is the body speaks. You get sick, you get a migraine, insomnia. There's this mystery fatigue. For me, it was a big, first time I did a live 3-day event, the entire white of my eye turned blood red. I've seen other people get hives, and it's always right before the moment that mattered most. What's happening is the body is saying no on behalf of the part of you that isn't ready. Okay. The third is the quiet disappearance. It's you. You just stop. You don't follow up with a lead. You don't send that email. You don't post the offer. You don't show up or accept the invitation to speak. That's happened to me too, right? There's no real reason for it. In fact, you come up with a reason. I remember the time when I was only probably like 5 or 6 months pregnant, and I said, no, I can't fly to wherever it was, Dallas, to go speak. And it would have been like amazing. I would have gotten so many clients from it. And I just said, no, I made up an excuse, right? And you probably can think of at least one time that you did this, where you just quietly let the moment pass, even though deep in your heart, you know that you should be doing it. The fourth is the manufactured distraction. And it's when you suddenly want to redo your website or rebrand or tinker with something or start a new project or literally clean out the fridge. Okay. Or clean your office, or you work on something that's totally unrelated and you know that you're doing it. You don't know why you're doing it. You're basically prioritizing anything that lets you be busy without actually completing the thing that would change your business. And the fifth is the familiar fight, right? Maybe it's a fight with your partner, or something happens with your team instigated by you, or you have a breakdown with your closest collaborator. Right at the moment that things were about to expand, that's when the drama eats the energy that was meant for the breakthrough. It's like you made a distraction happen. I'm not blaming you. I've been there myself. I have examples in my own life and business of each and every one of these. And yet, as you're listening to me describe each of the 5, I want you to think back and think, which is mine? Right? You at least have one that shows up more regularly than the others. For me, it's a combination of the 3 of them in cascading order. I've experienced them all. And I believe that it's important to talk now about why this hits high-performing women like us the hardest. Here's why. You have built your identity around being the one who can handle it, right? The one who is in charge, the one who fix it. And that identity is the very thing that got you to where you are, right? You've done it. You've picked up the pieces. You've stepped in for your team members. You've stepped in for your clients. You put in the long hours, right? And that's what got you there, right? So we can be grateful for that. But this approach also has a ceiling, right? It is a trap, one that you don't necessarily see. It's the version of you who white-knuckled her way to multiple 6 figures, maybe even 7 figures, who cannot hold the next level of success, whether that's a 7-figure business or a multiple 7-figure business with a lot of time off. The wiring is totally different. And I think that on some level, you know that, right? What got you here is not going to get you there, which is why every time you get super close, a part of you panics. And in my mindset teachings, I call it the panic point, right? And inside you say, if I cross this line, I have to become someone I don't yet know how to be. And that panic creates the self-sabotage. It's not actually a weakness. It is protection and self-preservation. So the panic point is a protective mechanism trying to keep you safe inside the identity that achieved what it achieved so far. So what actually moves you through it? It comes down to 3 things. The first is to name it as it's happening. Instead of going back under the covers or redoing that sock drawer, call it for what it is right as it's happening. The moment you notice yourself getting sick or picking the fight or redoing your website or cleaning out the fridge, stop and ask yourself this question. What is this behavior protecting me from? Or what is right around the corner that my system doesn't want me to reach deep down because it feels unsafe or unfamiliar, even if I say I want it, right? The second way to overcome this is to try not to push through alone, right? This is the moment that most women will double down on willpower, right? They're going to force their way through it, but it never works. Why? Because the pattern, the subconscious identity, is older and stronger than your willpower. So what you actually need is a witness, a strong coach, a mentor, and a community of other women also on the path to scaling, not a neighbor who doesn't know what it's like to go for 7 figures, but a community of other women who are also looking to achieve what you're looking, right? A community that has seen this pattern before and can call you forward out of fear, out of panic, and into motion. And the third is to make the identity shift before the revenue shift, right? You don't get to a 7-figure business by working harder. That's not the path. You get there by becoming the woman who can safely hold a 7-figure business. And so the inner work isn't optional. That is the actual work. This is why we do so much identity work inside Boldheart. And this is why I call what we do the mindset first methodology. Yes, strategy is going to be important, but strategy alone doesn't move women through this threshold, not until you do the identity work, right? And neither does isolation, ever. Why? Because women in isolation doubt themselves. They talk themselves out of big opportunities. So being witnessed and lovingly guided to cross that panic point is what gets you through. It's the only way that I've experienced for myself and that I do for the women who choose to work with me. So if you've ever wondered why in isolation or when you are under supported, you stay stuck and there is resistance and you procrastinate, this is why. But conversely, the moment that you commit to being in community and with someone lovingly getting you past the resistance, someone who has already done it many times, that is when you experience the breakthrough that you've been so desperately seeking. This is what happened to me initially, and this is why I now do it for the women. Now, before I close, I want to say something directly to you and to your heart. If you're listening and you're recognizing yourself in any of this, here's what I need you to hear. Okay, there is nothing wrong with you. I hear a lot of women say, oh, maybe I'm not supposed to get to 7 figures. Maybe I'm not cut out to be in successful entrepreneurship. And that is not true. And you're also not meant to stay at this level forever. You are simply at an important threshold, an inflection point. And yes, the threshold is real. Every woman who has ever crossed into her next level has felt this exact resistance. And it shows up in one of the 5 categories that I listed earlier. So the fact that the resistance is showing up is evidence itself that the breakthrough is close. At Boldheart, we call it a game. It's like, it's a game you want to play. Oh, everything's breaking around me. It's not that I should stop. It's that I should keep going. Right? We've come to recognize it for what it is, and we actually get grateful for it. So don't read the resistance as a sign to turn back. Read it as a sign that you're right at the edge, and that with the right support, your breakthrough is within reach. I cannot stress this enough. And know that you don't have to do it alone. In fact, you shouldn't. If something in this episode is hitting home and you can feel yourself standing right at the edge of one of these thresholds, that's exactly the moment that a business audit call with me exists for. Now, you may know that I offer a small handful of Zoom calls every month for podcast listeners. It's free of charge. And you have to apply for one. I don't just give them away to anybody. You have to be qualified. And here's how it works. You go to the link in the show notes that says free business audit, right? And you're going to answer a few questions ahead of time. And I will review your answers myself, not my team, me. And if you are approved for our Zoom call with me, I will come prepared. I will have read everything that you've sent in. I will have made notes. And together we will look at what is actually happening in your business and why you're feeling stuck or why you're not progressing fast enough. And we're not just going to look at the strategic bottlenecks, though that will be an important aspect of what we do on our call, but we will also look at the energetic or mindset bottlenecks where your identity currently doesn't match the identity of where you're going, because then you will know why you keep resisting the next move, right? And after all this time doing these, I am especially good at noticing the pattern that you can't see yourself, right? That bottleneck, the threshold, but also the next moves. So we will do this together, and you'll also walk away with your 7-figure roadmap and your new identity, the one you want to embody to move into your next level. And if this feels like something that could really be useful for you, you can apply at boldheart.com/call. The link is also in the show notes. So dear sister, here's what I want you to take with you today. The thing that's been stopping you is not a flaw. It is actually a threshold. And every woman I've ever watched cross into her next big level had to walk through this exact moment. And you are not alone in it. And you don't have to figure it out alone either. And I know it can feel scary, but it doesn't have to be. So go for it. And I'll see you next week. We're going to go deep next week into the 4 bottleneck types currently capping your revenue growth and the one that almost no one can see in themselves. Okay. Until then, I'm sending you so much love.